Hey, welcome to episode 283 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and today's episode is called Relentless Champion. Champion. I first encountered my guest today because we were both volunteering for for a seminar we were a part of, and my guest went above and beyond the volunteering and saw that I was new to San Diego, uncertain that I wanted things to do. So she commissioned me to write a poem for her boss at the time, and I stood up straight and said, "Oh my gosh, I have something to do that uses my talents," and and that meant so much to me and helped move me forward at a time when I was uncertain in a new place. And I mentioned this as because this is who she is. This is what she's done for not only me, but countless people through her life. She is truly amazing, and I believe you are going to be really moved and empowered by her perspective on life. So, without further ado, I'll bring her on. But first, this.
Today's guest, Ann Porter.
That's exciting, Jason. I love it. I'm inspired and motivated right now by that intro. Thank you. Thank you. And it's very cool that you have done this 283 times to now. That's amazing. I love it.
Well, what can I say? And you may hear me call Ann or Ann AP because AP is how I know her. So you'll probably hear either one.
That works for me. Thank you. Yeah.
So
Short and simple.
What?
Short and simple. It's really always good.
So AP, thanks for being here. Should we dive right in?
Sure. And I want to thank whoever is going to watch this podcast for being interested. And our intention is that you are motivated and inspired by what you hear. That's my intention for sure. So thank you for being here virtually.
And I very much second that intention. So the first topic, which will lead into many other topics, is how did you first get inspired about Mexico?
Well, I grew up in San Diego, and my father was bilingual. He studied Spanish extensively and did business in Mexico. He was a customs house broker. And so I consider myself a border dog. There's a lot of us that grew up in San Diego and Southern California and went back and forth with, like, it was a fence with a gate in it when we first started going to Mexico in 1958, probably. And it was a wonderful thing. And my brother Steve grew up surfing on the coast. My brother Ross always loved to come along for the ride. Always great company. And my sister Leslie, we had friends that had RVs, recreational vehicles down in a place called Popotla, northern Baja, basically. It was pretty much our backyard. And because my father was very familiar with cities, Ensenada, Mexicali, Tijuana, In Mexico, in Baja in particular, we grew up feeling very comfortable here. We have friends, we had family. It was a very comfortable kind of a backyard, if you will, and a just stunningly beautiful. I urge everybody who's paying any attention at all to be brave and come south because the Pacific coastline down here is astonishing. I mean, it's the natural resources, the wealth of species, birds, whales, critters in the desert. It's an astonishingly rich and beautiful place naturally to be. Anyway, to be just it's really a wonderful spot. And I knew I wanted to be here when I retired. It's peaceful. The people are just have so much respect and appreciation for older people. So, that's kind of a natural. It's a wonderful place to be. Now, I have a friend, I confess, I have a friend who spent many years in Cuernavaca, which is a bigger city outside of Mexico City. And so when she has come to visit me from time to time, she refers to where I live in northern Baja as Mexico Light. I know. She's funny like that. And it is, it's a kind of a gentle entry point into bigger, more complicated and profoundly interesting Mexico.
How many times a year would you go to Mexico as a kid?
Oh, at least 2 or 3, probably 4, just every time there was a vacation. Well, actually, let me say that's a couple times a year growing up, because as we grew up, then we had access to a place at the beach in San Diego where we would often go for vacations. But at least 2 or 3 times a year, we'd be down. We'd be down in Baja for sure. Yeah. So
I'm hearing a little static in the background. Is there anything that's staticky?
I'm not hearing anything on my end at all.
Oh, cool. Okay. 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 Just wanted to. to so I mean, like our connection to your connection to Mexico happened because your dad loved it, your mom loved it, and you went a lot of times as a kid, and then as an adult. It makes me think how often we get scared of things when we just hear a name and maybe hear some tidbits we where I mean that could be another person or a whole country. What would you say about that, about how meeting people and experiencing countries changes a perspective?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do want to say that because my father was bilingual, we grew up hearing Spanish and learning Spanish. My brothers went to work with my father and learned some business Spanish. So a lot of the times, our first hesitation about going someplace where we don't speak the language is the language, right? How am I going to make myself understood? Where's the bathroom? How can I ask for a drink of water, right? And because Mexico is so adjacent to the greater United States, I think people come up against that hesitation a lot of the time. But I was lucky enough to be able to hear Spanish. When I do speak to native speakers now, they say, "Oh, your Spanish is so good." And it's really not. It's really that I have a great accent because I grew up listening to my father. And they'll say, "Oh, your Spanish is so good," and then launch into some wonderful piece of information in Spanish that I can't follow because it's so rapid, and my Spanish is muy básico, as a friend of mine says. So learning Spanish and trying to speak Spanish, making the effort just makes a huge difference. I didn't feel like I needed to worry. And my friends who come to Mexico, once they have a few words under their tongue, if you will, to feel a little bit more comfortable about coming to Mexico. The other thing I want to say about that is that, you know, you and I both learned that our amygdala in our lizard brain is wired genetically to be wary of another, the other, something out there that might not look like me or talk like me or you know, walk like me. So the other is always a threat, perceived initially in the first nanoseconds of recognition or of cognition as a threat. And Mexico has created for a lot of people a big other. You know, it's like all those people and they don't look like us and they don't speak our language and they don't live like us. That's easily and very rapidly, and as we all know, can be turned into something threatening,
Mm.
a monster, which is really, really sad. And I think that's the gift that travel or living in another place can bring, is that we're really all very much connected by our humanity. It isn't a threat. It's not a threat. Something to actually, for me, be grateful for. I love the difference. I love the differences. I'm curious about them and I want to understand underneath it all where the connection might be. So for me, it's not a threat, nor should it be, in my humble opinion. We have so much to learn from the people in the world around us. And to cut ourselves off from that is dreadful. It's just a waste, a dreadful waste. So that's where I am on that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. You've talked before about how when you talk to someone and start to hear their stories and even if they're going through something challenging, it's like a vacation from your own mind.
Uh-huh.
Can, can you say more about why that feels so good to you?
Sure. It's something that we learned when we did that our seminar together is
When we did
and
Landmark, yeah.
when we did Landmark, yeah. But and I need to start by saying that my father was very interested in other people
Mm,
and he was curious about other people and I think he passed that along to all of us in one way or another. He was a successful businessman and he and my mother were big, big supporters of the San Diego community post-war. And they were involved. They were involved a lot in community building. And at some point, I remember, you know, being a little kid and going, "You guys are going out again? What are we out?" You know, right? Complaining because my parents were on to yet another business/social kind of event. And I said, "So why? Why do you do that?" And my father said, "Because I'm curious. I'm curious about what makes people want to be involved, what drives people to want to contribute, who they are, where they come from. I'm just curious. I want to know their stories." And I've found that as I have grown older, I am actually most of my life, I am curious as well. Who are you out there? What do you want? What are your dreams? What do you like to do? And all of a sudden, listening and listening, learning how to listen instead of superimposing my first impression on someone or something. I've learned to put that aside just for a little bit and listen to who they are, what they're saying. You know, it one's first impression, I find that I can't put it aside for very long, but just that little while I put that impression aside is like a vacation. It's like,
mm,
okay, I don't have to be, you know, a friend of mine sent me a children's book just the other day called Judgy Bunny. I don't have to be a judgy bunny for just like seconds at a time, I can be out here with someone else. And it may or may not turn out to be interesting or engaging, and that's fine too. But just that little while my judgy bunny hops away is a vacation. It's a vacation. Believe me, all this it stops. You can just stop it. It's real good.
What a great tale, Judgy Bunny.
No,
Fun.
cute. It's the cutest kid story. Yeah, it turns out it's a really fun kids book. It's called Judgy Bunny for all you grandmas and grandpas out there. It's pretty fun.
Speaking of your dad's curiosity, what inspired him to learn Spanish so well?
Well, well, his father was a livestock auctioneer. So his father spoke with Mexican ranchers where he landed. His grandfather landed in San Diego. And so he picked up some Spanish. So I think I don't know. My paternal grandfather died when I was about 6, so I didn't have a chance to really spend a lot of time with him, but I believe my father and his brother heard it around the house based on my grandfather's business, right? But then my father had polio as a child, and it affected his leg, his left leg, and his balance, consequently, his motor abilities. And my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, wanted to make sure that he had upper arm strength so that he could compensate for this lack of balance, lack of this challenge to my dad's mobility. So the first thing my grandfather did was give my father boxing lessons. But I think right about the second time my father got punched in the nose, he decided that was enough of that. So then my grandfather put him on a tuna boat with a bunch of Mexican and Portuguese tuna fishermen when he was 17. 16 and 17. He went out twice.
He went out to where?
He went out he went out 2 summers, 16 and 17. As I recall. My brother Steve will correct me on all of these details, I'm sure, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, so he went out fishing. So he was on a tuna boat for, a month at a time, 6 weeks at a time with people who just spoke Mexican and Portuguese. And so he developed an interest in understanding, who the people he was with as a 17-year-old, you want to connect, really, I think, with the people around you. It's kind of a necessity, figure out what tribe you're in now, right? So that's where he developed an interest in Spanish and started to learn it and went to school and got a degree in it and kept using it as he went to work.
I love that story. So your dad wanted him to get upper arm strength to compensate for the effects of polio, and as a side effect of getting upper arm strength on a tuna boat, he learned Spanish, which impacted not only his life but impacts every aspect of the life you're living right now. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. His dad wanted that for him. Yeah, yes, and I love that. I love how that ripple went out. Thank you for describing it so beautifully. Yeah.
You mentioned your dad was curious, and so they like going to parties and stuff. But how did your parents become so active as volunteers and board members in San Diego?
Well, oh, my parents had access to resources that they, of course, my father had to work for a living, and he worked very hard at it, which opened up a lot of avenues for him in business. And my mother had family resources, money, family resources, so that she was able to be a mom to 4 kids. God bless you, Mom. And also be engaged with other women. She didn't have to work, frankly. She didn't have to work. So, and being not bored, we could say bored. Yes, we could say bored with being a mom. She loved us all, and her own natural brilliance and talents were way bigger than being a and she was way more interested in other things than being a housewife. And I don't mean to denigrate being a housewife. Taking care of a house is a big deal. Raising children is one of the most important things you can do. She could do that and had the inclination and the resources to be able to expand beyond her house and her home. All of which got integrated ultimately in what she did out in the community. I told you the story about my first political campaign was for Richard Nixon in 1961 at 9. She had me out there canvassing in a plastic straw boater with a Nixon sticker around it. It's just like we were involved from the beginning in all kinds of community and political and social activities. We got raised that way. It was just what you did. So, honestly, because we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to have resources that didn't make survival imperative.
That's really interesting that your mom made the choice, like she's like, this is was here. I have 4 kids I love and need to raise, and there's so much housework, and I have other interests, other talents I want to develop. So she sounds like she was determined to do both,
Uh-huh. Very much.
which would be extremely challenging. Oh my gosh. How did she have enough hours in the day to do all that?
I don't know. I don't know how she did it, except for, and I don't mean to say except, she did it. She did it. She spent a lot of time not with us, really. There were sacrifices that were made all around, and nobody minded it because she was so successful at what she was doing. She was bright and fun and engaging and challenging. My mother was often short-tempered, if I can say that. Yeah, she and I have a fiery constitution myself. So and I was her first one. So she and I went through some stuff. We really, really did. We had a chance to become great friends at the end of her life, which was wonderful. And growing up, it was fiery around our house. I'm sure she was tired a great deal of the time. She was way more interested in the current pet project than, maybe sitting with us and doing homework. And who can blame her? Homework, But, so, and we all supported her knowingly or unknowingly because, she was determined to be a contribution. She and my dad both were extraordinary contributions in their community. And I think it's admirable.
What words of encouragement would you give someone listening who has a fiery relationship with their parents? With one or both of their parents?
Yeah, just don't make them wrong. Don't make them wrong. They're doing the very best they can. They're doing the very best.
What do you mean by don't make them wrong?
Well, there's a lot of blame that goes on. Well, you said this and I did that and you did that and then I did this and, that blame game, it's all your fault. Finding fault with people, and being a judgy bunny. I was real good at that. I had many, many opinions about the way things should be or should not be. And honestly, for a kid, oh, you just gotta go through it. You gotta go through it. It's just like try and love your parents. Just try. They're doing the very best they can and try not to blame them for shit. They're doing the very best they can. Don't make anybody wrong. Well, you did that. It's like, ugh. That way we get mired down and bogged down and nobody gets to move forward because it's all our fault. That guilt. "Ooh, I did that." Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
just, and honestly, I came to the humble opinion that as a teenager, it was my job to raise as much holy hell as I could so that somebody in charge would kick me out of the nest. And I, believe me, I did an amazing job of raising holy hell. Oh boy. And I'm sure my siblings could attest to that. Sorry, kids. But yeah, so just don't make them wrong. Don't blame them. They're trying the best they are. And so are you. Don't blame yourself. Sometimes people don't get along. And so you just have to keep breathing, move through it. Don't make them wrong. Don't make yourself wrong.
I mean, of course, there's times we need to set boundaries and stuff.
Yes, you're right, Jason. Inappropriate behavior is never acceptable. You're right. And
So,
people have
so
to.
how do we not make people wrong, but still set healthy boundaries? I'm sorry, I'm
Well,
asking a really challenging question.
I think then one starts to focus on what one self needs. Okay, I can't be in this situation anymore. I now need to figure out a way to get out of it. Right. Rather than focusing on how wrong and terrible the other person is, I think one needs to consider what their options are. What are the
Mm,
possibilities
mm,
for me as a
mm,
human being here in this unacceptable situation? Who can I talk to? Who can I go see? Where can I go that I feel safe? It's one needs to then narrow in on what I need, right? In this terrible situation. I feel for people who have to go through that. And, honestly, I have to say, hormones as a teenager, that's tough because you're working your way through a hormone storm
oh,
most
God.
of the time until you're 21. And it makes it very difficult to try and consider rationally, what one's options might be. And in this case, talking to somebody can change your life. Just talk to somebody about it. Say something. Talk to somebody, not the perpetrator, not the people that are making you feel uncomfortable. Talk to somebody you trust and then see what happens.
As you say that, I'm starting to think of how much energy sometimes we put into making someone wrong instead of taking action to help ourselves move forward.
Well, it's easy. I mean, it's a default kind of a thing. That person, I hate them. Right? It's default. It's just what you do as a human being. And you're absolutely right. The loss of energy and motivation and the depression that results from all that blame, oof,
Mm,
you can't get anywhere if you're mired down in any of that.
mm,
There's, I remember I just struck out a lot. It was just like got mad and yelled and I'm out of here. Left home. It was just like, and especially as a teenager, one does that. I'm gone. Goodbye. Just like cut it off, right? And that doesn't work either, really. But here I am in the benefit of decades of life to be able to pontificate so beautifully on what you can do. Yeah. Oof. It's tough. It's tough. And it this we learned in Landmark. This is what life looks like when it's lifing. It's not always
this is
comfortable. This is what life looks like when it's lifing. It's not comfortable. Get over it. All of us entitled people. First world entitlement. Whew. You know, be uncomfortable for a minute. Take a cold shower, for heaven's sakes. Don't have electricity for a day or two. See how you do. See what happens. You know?
And the
Well,
thing is you'll do okay. Like if we do that stuff, we'll do okay, which is exciting, and but it can expand our world and expand our appreciation of.
that's
Oh my
so
gosh!
right on. That's so right on, Jason. On the other side of all of that is this miraculous appreciation for how creative we can be. What can you think? What can you invent? What can you do? Oh,
Mm,
it's dark at night, so I can't sew anymore. Okay, so I'll invent a light bulb. You know
mm.
what I mean? I mean, on the other side of all that hardship, hopefully, if yeah, is the miracle of human creativity. That invention, that you know, oh my lord, it's so amazing, so miraculous.
In the
Yeah. So
miracle of appreciation, I'm talking to you from South Dakota. You are in Mexico. We're talking on a wow, holy wow.
I know. I know. Those Swedish people who thought, well, what if we could have a meeting with everybody around the world all at the same time? So they developed Zoom. It's like, what? That's crazy. And that's a really fun thing. And I think we've addressed this, Jason. You know, the technological achievements that happened in my grandfather's lifetime, from selling livestock to racing flivvers. This is my paternal grandfather again, although my maternal grandfather went through the same kind of span of time. You know, there were carriages and buggies and horses in the street. Bicycles were a big deal, but because the streets were so awful and because women were not often comfortable on bikes, that was dangerous. So then somebody said, okay, well, let's make a car. And so they made a car. And then ultimately, towards the end of my maternal grandfather's life, men went to the moon. He got to live long enough to see men go to the moon. And I remember you and I were talking,
Mhm.
Jason, about what kinds of technological achievements we would see in our lifetimes. So, to be able to go, oh, yeah, there wasn't any Zoom. Oh, as a matter of fact, I lost a dear friend about a month ago, and I've been looking for photos of her. We were young and crazy and just spectacular in the 70s in San Francisco. And, her daughter said, can you send me a photograph? And I looked and looked and looked, and I found one photograph that's actually very telling, but it made me think about having a camera in your phone and the difference that that would have made in my particular person. Hi, here we are on a podcast. Hi. Right? I mean, the difference that that's made and what a difference that would have made for me in this particular quest in terms of honoring my friends' memories. Thank goodness I have great memories of my friend, but I can't draw. I can't put that out in the world for other people. It's, my friend's experience with other people will stay strong with them forever, I'm sure, just like they will for me. And we have no visual images. In other words, I don't have an icon of my friend. And if I was a Russian icon maker, I would make an icon for my friend. Images have power, right? Well, this one's going to have to stay in my head for my beloved
I
friend.
first of all, your first last sounds really challenging. It's tough losing the people we care about. It's just tough.
Yeah. Yep. It's hard. There's definitely a hole in my heart from losing all my friends. Anytime we lose friends, it's,
Mm.
yeah, painful.
And then secondly, I see you, AP, like, next time I talk to you, you might be like, "I'm taking a course on making Russian icons."
Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I don't my hand-eye coordination isn't quite that great, but yeah, I mean, I don't think my friend would be happy if I spent too much time mourning her loss.
Mm.
I can do that. I can do that fundamentally every day. Send her love and light in my thoughts. I can do that. But to get slowed down by it or stopped by it or to try and self-medicate any more than I already have, I don't think would make her happy. I don't think
Mm.
she would approve of that. As a matter of fact, I know she wouldn't. So it's, I think, important for all of us who lose people, certainly to take care of ourselves and go through whatever process we need to, and ultimately keep moving. Life is motion. And if it stops, then something's seriously wrong and or you're dead. And really, because life is so precious and moves so quickly, we got to take advantage. We have to take advantage of, I think that's, as we've talked about, that's what I think our job is as humans, is to enjoy and respect and treasure where we are, who we're with, and the planet that we're standing.
I love that. I've never quite thought of this way, but part of the legacy that our loved ones leave who have passed leave with us is an insistence that we keep moving, we keep going, we keep lifing.
Keep lifing. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That that would be what I would want for the people I love. The only thing that bugs me is that I don't know what it's like over there on the other side. And I'd really like to get a postcard a time or two. And actually we can understand my mother loved butterflies. So after she passed, every time I saw a butterfly, I felt like it was her somewhere in there. There are Native American traditions that think that moths are our ancestors.
Mm,
So they come to you. So we can make connection possible through the miracle of our incredibly creative brains. And that offers for me a small comfort. It's not the same. It's never the same as not being able to laugh and joke and hug your beloved.
yeah.
But then there's the motivation to live up to the memory of a beloved. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Mm,
how can I take this love that we have had for each other out into the world? What can I make happen
mm,
with that? Right?
mm, mm.
I think it's incumbent upon. I think that's a way to worship. That's a way to honor a memory.
Speaking of taking love out into the world combined with you were talking so poetically about how all humans have solved big problems of technology through the years, from the car to the computer. But but please tell me about four walls and and how you and your team members are expressing love through that, and what kind of problems you're solving.
Wha- wow, if only I could figure out what kind of problems we're solving, we would be halfway there. No, that's not right. I don't have to do it all by myself, first of all. As I've grown older, I remember growing up on the beach and in San Diego and applying baby oil with iodine to my skin so that I would develop a beautiful golden tan. right? And then I remember reading in a science biology class or something, a prediction that the sun would get, 50 times hotter and brighter, and the light from which would become more dangerous for human skin in about 50 years. And as I've aged from that child on the beach getting tan to this older state, I have seen it happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen skin cancer incidences, just, people struggling with skin issues as a result of the buildup of carbon monoxide in the thinning of our own atmosphere around planet Earth, right? So that was just my first understanding of the fact that we needed to take care of where our feet are. We need to take care of the planet. And I'm so proud of Pope Francis not being a Catholic, but I considered converting because he mandated that his Catholic people take care of the planet. He was the first environmental pope. God bless him. I mean, and that may not be true. I would have to probably dig a little deeper to find out if that's a true statement, but I loved him for it. Yes, we have to take care of the planet. So I was lucky enough to run into a couple of border dogs, as a matter of fact, a guy named Stephen Wright and our amazing executive director, Waylon Matson, whose mission was, and now forever will be, to clean up the Tijuana River watershed. The Tijuana River is the border between the U.S. and Mexico, as I'm sure you know, and it is dangerously polluted with sewage from all the way up to the top of the watershed, all the way down, and has been for years. And part of the issue is that both sides of the border are considering it a political/territorial problem. The pollution in the river is now so bad that people are coming to understand that it's a human problem. That people on both sides of the river are sickening and struggling towards clean air, no metals, just it's starting to become a universal issue. So these two gentlemen started this not-for-profit called Four Walls International. And they started building bottle houses, recycling wine bottles, beer bottles, and making windows out of them in plaster and adobe, not huts, but houses at the border for people who couldn't afford a house, right? So their connections grew and grew, and they've been doing it. Waylon's been doing it now for 15 years, 20 years. And so his connections and relationships on both sides of the border are empowering some real action around cleaning up the Tijuana River. This is something that I probably will not see in my lifetime because this problem is that serious. However, there are a great many people thinking about putting a great many dollars to work on both sides of the border to to start this possibility become a reality. Four Walls International is working on 4 different pillars. First of all is money. Of course, it's infrastructure projects like this are just astronomically expensive. However, one rocket to the moon by a private billionaire would make a real big difference in the infrastructure problems here in the Tijuana Valley, right? Excuse my bitter tone. But yeah, so the assignment of resources to this problem is a little bit precarious, shall we say. There's a political will to do it. Economically, there have been computer models that indicate to environmental venture capitalists who are interested particularly in environmental ventures, that there could be a return on their initial investment. It would take, I think 3 years was the last thing I heard, but it could be longer. But there is a possible return economically on investing in environmental ventures. Let's see. And so we've got political, we've got money, we've got science. science. We've got a great team of geology experts, oceanographic experts, scientists who, for instance, have developed a chromatic film so that film can be taken from drones that identifies different kinds of plastic in the river, falling down the watershed, falling down the cliffs, falling down the canyons. And so to be able to identify the different kinds of plastics that are coming from certain locations gives people access to stopping the outfall. Because then, of course, the thing we need is education, having people understand the impact. And it's getting pretty clear for people on both sides of the border what the impact is. So those are the pillars that Four Walls International is working on, and primarily through the relationships that have been developed through years of working with similarly minded environmental groups, the tribes on either side of the border, groups, people who really, really do want to make a difference and clean up the river. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that nothing happens unless you can talk to somebody about it. I think we're circling back, aren't we, Jason? The conversations and the relationships that these guys generated is making a difference. It's making a difference. It takes some time. It can't happen right away, which sort of drives me crazy. I'm an impatient, judgy bunny, but I want it now. But, it's like, but these conversations and relationships are resulting in actions that are having an impact on the river.
Am I getting the story right that the Four Walls started because the people were picking up bottles that were thrown in the river and then using them to make windows?
Yeah.
I love stories like that of just, and this gives me so much heart that the human, like we've been talking about, the human is endlessly creative. We have this problem of glass bottles. Why don't we capitalize on it and make windows for people so they can live better? It's just beautiful.
Right. Another project that they were involved in and have continued to do is making benches in parks out of bottles. They stack bottles, they fill bottles, plastic bottles, as a matter of fact, with trash that they collect on the beach. People collect on the beach and bring them trash and plastic bottles. And so then they stack up the plastic bottles and then plaster over them, with mud, kind of adobe plaster, and make benches in parks or
Gosh.
walls in parks. Yeah. It's, basic recycling, reusing, which I must, as a side note, add, Mexican people are infinitely creative with. So yeah. So, projects like that people can do in their backyard or in their park or down in a canyon, God forbid, where somebody's trying to live in a hut. I don't know. Anyway, that can happen. And it does.
Another huge emphasis that you have is making life fun. Like as we talk about something like the Tijuana River, it can, and all the pollution and everything that's been lost, that can get so serious so fast.
Pretty significant. Yeah.
Like, how do you respect what a subject like the Tijuana River is, and respect the reality of the situation, yet still have fun?
Well, I think one needs to hang on to the possibility. The Four Walls we share a vision of a clean river and parkland and healthy environment for aquatic birds and fish and people who could actually go out surfing again at what's called the Narrows. That's the end of the Tijuana River. But the water's too polluted, so nobody can go in. They do, and they end up with skin problems. You know what I mean? It's like, so we share a vision of what is possible around the river. Trees, carbon sequestration, bioswale, cleaning the water, kids picnicking and fishing, and you could actually, maybe you don't want to eat the fish yet, but at some point you can actually fish in the river and catch yourself a dinner. You know what I mean? Those things are so inspiring. Those visions and goals. This is ultimately, like I say, this is a lifetime promise for me. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, but I have enough of a vision of how it could be that I'm willing to work on it forever. Talk to people, raise money, whatever it takes. Go down there and pick up plastic bottles. As a matter of fact, Four Walls acquired what's called a plastic granulator about 4 years ago now, I want to say. Why? You'll tell me if that's right. And you need to put clean plastic bottles, no labels, cleaned out, in a plastic granulator, and it will turn them into plastic pellets. And those plastic pellets can be used to make tiles and bricks and items of usefulness for people. So the whole kind of organization of the collection process, the cleaning process, the electricity it takes to fire up the granule, what are we going to do with the product? Who's going to be interested in buying the product at the other end? That gets to be a whole sort of universe in itself. And it's so interesting and so powerful. So many people would be benefiting. Let's give that a shot, right? Wow. So it's the possibility to benefit so many, I think. The vision of people's lives being improved, health-wise, the earth being improved, it's like there could be benefits. So, and that's very motivating to me.
Speaking of vision and the power of seeing beyond what the present situation looks like at this moment, makes me think of art. Oh gosh, we have a lot. So for us, like, really briefly, what inspired you to be involved in working in various capacities in the arts your whole life?
Well, I'm interested in transformation, as you may have gathered from this conversation. I'm interested in changing things. I'm interested in transformation. And one of my early and most powerful experiences around transformation was seeing an art show, an art exhibition in San Diego at the Museum of Art by an artist named Joseph Cornell. And Joseph Cornell, I won't go into it in the interest of time, but it's just a fascinating and inspiring artist. He's one of my favorites of all time. But I remember going into the museum and walking through his work and his life, basically based on the didactic materials around the exhibition, and walking out the door of the museum, and the world looked different. The world looked different. The trees were different. I saw different shapes in them. The colors were brighter, the shadows, the shades. The world looked different. And that was a profound experience for me in the power of that art has to transform how we see the world, how we deal with the world, right?
Wow.
So for me, I've been chasing that basically for the rest of my life. When I'm not doing so much.
Speaking of art and chasing that, you in the last few years you've taken up poetry, and
yes,
I would love if you just would say a few words about what you love about writing poetry, and maybe read a poem for us.
Oh, aren't you nice, Jason? All right. Well, let me see if I can pull up a poem. Again, when we say art, a lot of times we just mean the visual arts. I find that theater, poetry, reading will have the same impact on how we see the world or deal with the world, that painting and sculpture does, performance art. So poetry for me, I've always basically been a writer in there somewhere, but it's just lately that I have the time, and I have found also that I really enjoy doing creative work with other people in a
Mm.
group. And so I was lucky enough, my dear friend Maria created this writer's circle where we meet once a week and sit down and write. So I don't know. I could read you a Disney and Friends poem. It's maybe it'll be funny. Since we're talking about, Southern California, I wrote this poem called Disney and Friends.
Mm.
I'm just one dwarf, and I bet you can guess which one. I'm just one deer and one bear. I'm 2 legs away from one cricket, 4 eyes and a penis away from your favorite spider. Sometimes the jays in my yard mistake me for their mocking cousin, what with the whistling I do, being that dwarf. Occasionally, I'll drag out a blue satin scarf just to see if the sparrows will take the style bait. So far, I find myself wandering down a deserted main street, looking for round shadows about ear high and a fluffy red skirt with white polka dots.
So,
I
it,
know. It's just so crazy. It's just, and to be able to sit with a group of really bright and wonderful women and just, download. It's pretty fun. It's
and
pretty fun.
love it. Like Disneyland is billed as the happiest place on earth, and you're talking about the importance of fun. So it really ties in thematically with what we've been talking about. So
Well,
cool.
thank you. Yeah, thanks for tying that knot. That's so beautifully, Jason. That's awesome. Yeah,
Just one more question, Ann Porter, aka AP. And I ask all my guests this: what does doing your imperfect best mean to you?
that that making a mistake, falling down, letting yourself down, letting other people down is just on the other side of it an invitation to pick yourself up and
Mm,
keep going,
mm,
right? It's just, we are imperfectly perfect because who you are as perfect will reign. Yeah, I'm going to fall down. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to be stupid. And on the other side of that, I'm going to be the perfect Ann Porter. There isn't another one. This is it. It's all we get.
mm,
No matter what,
mm,
Jason, you're going to be the perfect Jason Freeman. You're
mm.
perfect on the other side of the imperfection.
We are you're not in competition with 100 other Ann Porters, and I'm not in competition with 100 other Jason Freeman. I've
That is
never
correct.
thought of it exactly that way. That's phenomenal.
Oh, cool. Yay. Well,
Thank you so much.
Jason, thank you for being interested in torturing me with questions. No, it has not been. It has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Our
I hope it
conversation,
hasn't been torture.
not at all. I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you. It's
Awesome.
always good to talk with you, Jason. Always great. And I wish you all out there in podcast land the very best. You're perfect. Thank you, Jason.
Always great talking with you, AP, and please hang on the line as I wrap up here.
Will
Uh,
do. Love you.
Yeah, love you too. And speaking of love, don't you all love listening to a AP? I feel encouraged and inspired, and And like I can see the world just a little differently and a little more optimistic and impolite.
Wow, that's great. That's
And thanks for all tuning in and tune in next week for another awkwardly awesome podcast. Or if you're watching this 1,000 years from now, you'll probably have to watch reruns because I won't be doing this by then. I'll be permanently retired in 1,000 years. And in any case, thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to smile.
right. Keep smiling.